The Powers Project.
Hey, Chris, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You look good. And how's this Florida weather treating you?
Sweaty.
Yeah.
It's still hot. Although I don't know about there, but our humidity is finally really down the last couple of days, so it's actually not bad.
Right. It has been. I'm surprised, and it's a nice change. You know.
Yeah, for Floridians or people who live here, a low humidity and heat is just as good as a cold frame.
Yeah, it really is because then you can we're going to talk about this because you talk about hot showers, but and I'm guilty of taking hot showers even in the summertime. And so if you take
Yeah,
a hot shower and you get out of the shower, and in this weather, you're just sweating as soon as you get out of the shower. So
yeah, and then you don't even have to turn on the hot water. Usually the groundwater is hot.
right, yeah,
So
that's true. Yeah, tap water coming out cold isn't cold. So
unlike Pennsylvania, where I lived for 15 years, where the water was continually 50 degrees no matter when it came out of the faucet. So,
yeah, that would be nice.
yeah,
So
well, except in January, it's
oh yeah, and you have to keep your again. I was born up north, but I've lived down here most of my life, so I never had to deal with what people who live as adults up north have to deal with. So like I understand you have to let water run through your pipes or something so they don't freeze up in the wintertime.
yeah. Well, I typically, typically up there, well, where I was, where they're used to it, things are built so that you don't really have to do that very often. If your heat goes out, it's a problem. But I was minus 19, 0 during certain parts of the winter, the dead of winter. Now, growing up in Texas, we had cold shots in the winter,
Right.
and you had to do that. It might get down in the teens a couple times in Dallas, and you had to like drip the faucets because the houses aren't built for that. But up there, they're pretty. Your walls are really thick. I mean, they're like
Right.
down here, it's like a 2x4, 2x6, and there it's like 2x8. So it's just different. And then speaking of that, skincare is different for each of those climates. So this time of year for me gets to be fun because I get to talk about all the different climates that I have to deal with because I'm not just US, I'm Canada and Australia and the UK. So everybody is different, got different stuff going on different parts of the year. So
So let me tell the viewing and listening audience that who you are. You are a skincare expert. I found your YouTube channel, and unlike other YouTube channels I've seen where they talk about skincare, you weren't 19. And so
hardly.
I always find it funny when you have young kids who don't know the reason why your skin looks flawless is because you're 19. That's why. It's like I see young kids who are on there who are so-called personal training experts, and I go, this kid could eat pizza and drink beer and still have a six pack. It's not because he knows what he's talking about. It's because he's 19, and when you're 19, you can look pretty damn good. You really have to go out of your way not to look good at that age. And so
Yeah.
I tell people, be careful about who you take your advice from. And I came across your YouTube channel, and when I found out your age, I was like, what? I was like, well, here's somebody who obviously knows what he's talking about, and can speak from experience because you aren't 19. So I looked at a lot of your episodes, and I was just like amazed at the content, and I was like, I need this guy on the show because with my viewing audience and listening audience, it tends to be mostly men, and we tend to be older, like 35 and up. And so it's like, you know, it we need to start taking care of our skin back when we're younger. But someone like me, I didn't, and now I'm having to do whatever. Like I'm listening to your episodes to make up for what I didn't do when I was younger.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can.
It is easier to preserve it than to return to it. So, however, it is possible to return to it for the most part.
That's
But
good.
you're right. I mean, if you look at my listening audience, which is getting fairly large, it's still 40 to 50% guys. So that's always been the history with me with skincare because one, I'm a guy, and then I, you know, when I first started doing this, well, I did it for myself, and then I didn't really do it for other people until like 2004, as far as publicly. I was trained esthetician, knew about skincare ingredients and products back as far back as the 80s. That's when I started using skincare, because I'm 57 now. But I would help people individually. But it wasn't until I decided I didn't want to do corporate work anymore, and I wanted to write about this stuff, because that's, you know, we didn't have Instagram in 2004. We didn't have all that stuff. We had Facebook, and a thing called ClickBank, which is still around, where you sold your ebooks, because there was no Amazon to sell ebooks on yet. They were there, but they weren't selling things. Right. So yeah, I've been doing it a while. And the guy thing is that a lot of people that are now, and it's not so much just the baby boomer, but I hate putting labels on people, because everybody's at a different place depending on their age. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But guys were coming to me because they had acne issues. So I had a lot of young folks who were doing steroids to work out and build muscle, trying to help them with their skin. I had people with, you know, like I had really bad acne for a really long time, like incurable, according to the dermatologist. I was just going to be one of those people that dealt with it my whole life. And I was like, no, I'm not. So it's what drove me to figure stuff out. So when it comes to skincare for younger people, there's a lot going on, like the diet and where they are in their life and where their skin is biologically aged, not chronologically, because everybody's different. There are 34 to 54-year-olds with very oily skin, very few wrinkles, prone to breakouts, and then there are people that dry up in their 20s. So there's a whole lot of variation. And the problem with the content that you're talking about that I see so much, not so much who's delivering it, but if you don't know that and you're trying to address all that variability with just one option,
right,
telling people that is the option and there isn't anything else holistically, or, you know, I just did a video today on retinol alternatives that are not retinols, but they do similar things, ingredients. I'm very ingredient driven, because my motto is, there's a couple of them. One is on my channel, it's all about ingredients and effectiveness over brand name and price. And then I also say, you know before you buy and apply. You need to know what you're putting on your skin. So there's a lot of that. And you know, I am one of those weird offshoots on YouTube. I went into YouTube thinking I was going to be talking about acne, because that's what I'm really known for in the past. Had a best-selling book on it, did tons of television for about 4 years. I was on every show. Good Morning America. I was all over the place, because I was one of the first people that was a non-medical person to talk about diet, probiotics, what I did to clear up my own acne when doctors couldn't do it anymore. It was just antibiotics and Accutane. Those were your options. And shockingly, still similar options today in the medical community. Although a lot of great dermatologists, there's one on there called Dr. Dre. She does do a lot about talking about retinols and adapalene. And so I had a very holistic dermatologist for the time in the 80s who taught me things that had nothing to do. You know, his two goals were to do as little medication as possible, as little antibiotics, because even back then they knew that was a problem, coloring people's teeth, giving them digestive issues, actually extending acne issues into your adulthood if your system gets out of whack. He knew all that stuff. So I learned a lot from that guy, and that's what started it. And now, thinking I was going to be doing acne, well, I opened my mouth on a video about it's not even been a year ago, probably November. It's the first time I really talked about my age, and that got people's attention.
Yes.
You know, I didn't do it for that reason. It was just happened to be that piece of content. I was talking about how I got where I was and how skin is different and the things you need to do if you have sun damage and that sort of stuff, and crepiness on the neck, which is a lot of things that, because people would do sunscreen on their face but never nowhere else. And I mentioned that I was 57, and why I didn't look it was because of A, B, C, D, E. Well, that video went nuts. It went viral on YouTube because people were like, he's lying. Show us your driver's license, that kind of stuff. So the whole thing is now evolved where I'm still covering skincare ingredients. I'm still covering what they do, trying to do it by skin type, skin issues, where you are in life. Starting to reincorporate back diet and nutrition, which I know a lot about, into the videos because people are asking for that. And then all the new therapies that we have now, like light therapy, red light mask for hair loss and for acne with the blue light, the purple blue light. All those therapies have been around for a long time in the sports community to help heal injuries, sport injuries, but now they know that it helps with collagen and circulation. So there's a lot going on. It's very overwhelming to the average person who gets on there and says, hey, what do I do about my wrinkles? And this thing, and then this device, and they're not cheap, and it's $1,000 for this, or go get these treatments from the dermatologist, facelift, neck lift, Juvederm, Restylane, injections. People are like, uncle. So that's kind of what I do. I kind of ununcle everything for people and try to help them build a skincare routine that's a slow start routine, just much like a dermatologist or an esthetician, which is my background, would do. They're not going to throw the book at your skin, and people, because they're not going to the doctor or going to a professional, go out and buy every single thing that they hear on YouTube, and they try to apply 15 things to their skin at once, and guess what? It rebels.
Right.
You can't put all these chemicals, even though they're plant-based, doesn't matter, still a chemical. Everything we have that's a chemical comes from some sort of plant or mineral resource. It didn't come from another planet, and people forget that. Just because it's not prescription doesn't mean it won't do something. So I spend a lot of time trying to help people decode all of this stuff. And I hear what you said all the time, wow, you're not 24. You know what you're talking about. So I come from the perspective of having lived it.
Right. And that makes a big difference. And so one of the things I really enjoy about your YouTube channel is that you actually try products out. Like you test them on yourself to see if these are effective or not, instead of just going by, what somebody else might have said, or what the rating is on it or something. You actually try a lot of these products out and go, hey, this is the pros and cons of these things.
Yeah. And it's usually, again, ingredient based. I don't slather everything on because, again, I would be doing the same to my skin that I tell people not to do, because I'm big on patch testing. I even did a video where I was testing out self tanners because people want to be tan, especially these guys. And I'm like, go get a spray tan or use this. So I did a whole video on the best self tanners, and I didn't follow my own rules because I got, just like everybody else, in my head, well, I've looked at the ingredients. I know what specific things are in each one that make your skin turn, the amino acids that help turn you brown or orange, depending on your chemistry. So I didn't pay attention to one of them, a very popular one, and I used it and it gave me a rash.
Oh.
It was all over my chest, over my neck, on my arms and my armpits. So I talk about that in the video. I was like, see, I broke my own rules and I paid for it. You just never know. I didn't test that one because all the ones I had used so far didn't give me a problem. And it's basically the same thing, but it had some fragrance and stuff in it that didn't agree with me. So even I'm still learning stuff all the time. But I spend a lot of time trying to keep people from letting the sun damage their skin, because I think one of the big things for me was that growing up in Texas, I knew to wear sunscreen early. I knew to use glycolic acid early, stuff to keep I knew to use exfoliate. I needed to do all those things in my early 20s. And so I would say that sunscreen, although I had my periods of being tan, once upon a time in another lifetime, I, for a brief time, owned a landscaping business, which I bought. I don't know what I did that for, but anyway, that was in the sun 12 hours a day. And even with SPF 50, you get some sun damage. I mean, if you're out in it. So I wasn't wearing the hats or the stuff that I talk about today. So I really do try to impress upon people that sun damage is a big problem a cumulative problem. It's not going to show up necessarily right away, but as you get into your 40s, 50s, and beyond, it will show up, because that damaged DNA on those skin cells, I mean, every cell we have is replicating a new cell. So it's like a photocopier, you know, every, whatever the lifetime of that cell is, whether it's 7 years or 7 minutes, we have cells that span the spectrum. They're replicating. So if the DNA gets damaged, if the directions get damaged, then eventually that damage is going to show up. And that's brown spots, dry spots, skin cancer, wrinkles, crepey skin, all of that stuff. They say 70, I say it's 90, but the Dermatological Society says it's 70% of the skin damage or the aging process that you see on your skin is due to sun damage, because it breaks down collagen. So that's my channel. I'm always preaching, they say bitching, but I'm preaching about it.
Well, that's where I want to start today. And I'm sure when you were younger like me, if you ever went to the beach, do you ever remember seeing the old people, like, you know, that were, I say old, they were old when I was in my 20s. I thought they were old. You know, they were probably 65 or something. Now I'm going, 65 is not old. So, but you would see them walking down the beach and they would have skin like elephant skin. They were so tan, but their skin looked like leather. And I go, and I remember thinking back then, I do not want that to happen to me. And I was a lifeguard on the beach. And so I knew that I was like, at some point, I'm going to stop getting sun, because I don't want to be 65, 70 years old walking on the beach and really have dark leather for skin. So
yeah, and then there's a lot of people that are addicted to that.
Yes,
addicted to tanning, where men and women, whether it's laying on the beach. I've many friends that move here, and for the first 6 months they're brown as a tree, you know, tree stump or whatever. They live out there, and I'm like going, you know. So, or they get burned really badly because people don't understand our sun strength down here. But you're right. I mean, I see that on the beach, and surprisingly, or not surprisingly, they're usually not all that old. But you know, I went overseas and had my first experience on the nude beach. No, I did not go nude, but I was on the nude beach, and I had that same shocking experience you did. I didn't know certain parts of the body would do that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, wow. And that is sun damage. And the reason the skin does that, not just the darkness, the darkened skin, but the sagging, is that the UVA, UVB light breaks down your collagen, slows your collagen production, damages those cells again, and it really strips the elastin, which is what holds your skin in place, of its flexibility. Plus, as we age, there's less and less of that flexibility anyway. Like if you put, like I would say over 40, if you put your arm on anything for 4 or 5 minutes, it's got a pattern when you pick it up.
right.
So that's that difference. And so the reason people have the sagging skin is the damage to that structure, the elastin structure in there. Because collagen is really the building blocks. Think of it as the thickness, the foam in the mattress. That's kind of what that is. And think of the elastin as the springs. And we all know what it's like when box springs or mattress springs go bad.
Right.
It sags, right? So it's really the same thing. And that's a great analogy. I've never used that analogy before. I need to write that down for a video. That's really good, because that is exactly what it's like. And so then we have to try to repair it. We have to start suggesting things like collagen peptides and collagen and peptides that are topical, and retinol, tretinoin, which is prescription, things to try to help reverse some of that damage and allow that collagen to thicken back up.
Okay, so let's do this. I want to ask you some questions. I also have some questions from the viewers and listeners, but I want to ask you, so let's start with the sun, since that seems to do the most damage, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that you can be out in the sun for somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes without sunscreen, and you're okay. Is that true, or is that false?
Well, this is one of those. This is a really good question, because there's a yes and no to that. If you go out in the yard in the late afternoon or early in the morning, you're not going to get as much damage. Any sun that penetrates the skin is going to do some damage. Now, your skin can repair a lot of that on its own. That's not the cumulative damage. But, you know, there's the thing about needing some sun to get vitamin D, and we'll address that, I'm sure, somewhere on the show. But so you're going to get some damage, but you're not going to get burned, and it's not going to be apparent. 20 to 30 minutes is that piece of it that is the cumulative part. You know, if you go to your car and get something out of it and you don't have any sunscreen on, you're not going to really notice. Is that exposure? Yes. Does it accumulate over time? Yes. It's like the thing about driving in the car. Most people, when they get at 50, the driver's side of their arm is got more sun damage than the left. Same with the neck, same with the crow's feet, because of that ongoing constant exposure of low-level UVA, UVB light. So even the light coming through my window technically is damaging my skin. However, of course, I have sunscreen on. But however, your skin has the ability to deal with some of that. We didn't live underground. We didn't live in caves. So completely blocking out sun is not really that healthy for you. So there's a fine line in there. I think I answered that question.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying, if you're going to get that 20 minutes in, do it in the morning or do it in the late afternoon. Just
when the sun angle is the lowest, and it's not intense, and you can feel the intensity of the sun. And you know that here we get cold weather. It can be 38 outside, and you go out and stand in the sun, and it feels like 90 here because it's just so strong.
Right.
So it really depends on where you live too. There's a lot of things. Even with cloud cover, you're still getting some UVA, UVB light penetration. Yeah, so there are dermatologists that say wear it all the time, like everywhere. Right. I don't agree with that. That's my opinion. I'm not a dermatologist, but as a reasonable human being, it's not reasonable to expect people that they're not going to do that all the time. You're going to forget. But if you take good care of your skin, and you remember, if you're going to be out at the beach and you wear it, and you're out in the sun every day for more than that, like or you sit in a window at work, like I said, there's a window right here behind you or behind me or in front of me, whatever. There's light coming in on a daily basis, and I want to wear some because that's a constant hour after hour after hour bout of a UVA, UVB light.
Okay, so I do have a question, because unless you have somebody to put this, SPF on your back, why does the back seem to, like, no matter how much sun it gets or what you expose it to, it doesn't seem to wither or to deteriorate like the rest of your skin?
Because most people, this is such a good question, because this is another analogy that I use that's really good. And it's the same as the back for the most part, for most people. Now, if you're a leather daddy or mommy and you've lived out at the beach and you've never worn any sunscreen, your back's going to be, I've seen that. So it can happen.
Right.
But most people, these parts of the body are covered most of the time. So because of that, we don't see that accruing damage that happens. So I tell people, if you want to judge how much the sun has changed your skin, look at the skin on your butt and compare it to your face or your chest or your neck. And that's the dip. Take a picture of the skin and put it side by side. That is the absolute ratio of sun damage that you have on your body from the sun. Wow. You don't need a doctor to tell you that.
Yeah.
You can go to the dermatologist and they'll turn this purple light on you, and it will show every striation, every change in cellular color all over your skin. Most people go in there look like a leopard, not to the naked eye, but under that light.
Right.
And they're freaked out because they're like, wow. And so they see there are parts of their body that don't look like that. So.
Wow. Okay. So since we need to protect ourselves from the sun, one of the things that I really like that you talk about, again, is, as you mentioned earlier, is the ingredients. So what kind of sunscreen? Because I know there's a lot of people out there who don't like using sunscreen because of the ingredients. But you were talking about in one of your episodes about a sunscreen that doesn't have these chemicals in it and that was safe to use. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. There are chemical sunscreens, chemical-based sunscreens that absorb into the upper layers of the skin and block that UVA, UVB, and long wave UV light that causes damage. Then there are mineral-based sunscreens, which actually sit on the surface of the skin and reflect it back. Both very effective. One obviously is a chemical and it can be absorbed, and there's been some issue with that in that octinoxate, oxybenzone, not so much avobenzone. That one hasn't been the big problem, although that's still a chemical. Those chemicals can get into the bloodstream. Octinoxate and the oxybenzone have been shown to create hormonal changes in people, which is a problem for adolescents and teenagers. And here are these are the people we're trying to get to wear this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I always recommend that, and there's still a ton of studies going on that, by the way. They haven't linked that to, sorry, dog. That hasn't been linked directly to cancer. You know, it has in like laboratory settings, but not in humans. So there's that to consider. The zinc sunscreens, people don't really like them because they were thick and they didn't absorb well. They're kind of greasy and white. They leave a white tint, and if you're darker complected, you can really see it. But what's been really nice is over the last, I guess, 5 or 6 years, really, there's been a real work in progress with the companies, the sunscreen companies, to develop these where they maybe have a little bit of tint in them. They're a mixture of zinc and titanium dioxide, both reflective material. They even have a version for ladies who wear makeup, because that's the problem, to put sunscreen on after your foundation. A lot of foundations have some sunscreen in it, but there's powdered sunscreen. So like setting powder or blush, those type of things. Color Science makes a whole set of those, whereas they apply their powders, the last thing that they use, that actually has the sunscreen in it. So I recommend that if you can tolerate it, and there's so many good brands. Neutrogena has good mineral sunscreens, L2MD. If you watch the videos on my channel, I talk about all of those over and over again. The point is to wear it. I say sunscreen, sunscreen, sunscreen. If I told you, you need to wear sunscreen. So, that's my other weird thing on the channel. But and there are blends too. There are also sunscreens that are blended between avobenzone, which is the less evil of the I guess 4 or 5 of those sunscreen chemicals that are not good for you. And then they'll mix in the zinc oxide. So there's less of that component. With a big scandal this summer was benzene, which doesn't belong in anything that you put on your skin. And it somehow got into, at the manufacturing side, the skincare companies didn't have that in the ingredient list and asked them to put it in there. There was something that went on in the manufacturing side. So there were several brands that had to recall sunscreen this summer because of the benzene thing. So.
All right, so let me ask you just 2 questions on this. You talked about Neutrogena and it being mineral based. Now, is that the same? Because I know a little bit about suntan oils, and that the suntan oils that were mineral based or something.
You're thinking of mineral oil.
Mineral oil. So that's
yeah, it's not the same. Yeah,
okay,
it's not the same mineral.
Okay.
On the Neutrogena side, just like almost all of the skincare companies, that they have the zinc products and they also have the chemical products, because people can use either one. They're FDA approved, so they're not going anywhere. I tell people to try to find one you like, and just, if you're going to wear a chemical one, wear one, just wear one. If it comes down to not going to wear one, if I have to wear that, then just wear one. It doesn't matter to me. You'll get the protection. I just like zinc. products. I like more natural products over more chemicals, obviously.
Right.
But, you know, and then there's a thing about using them properly, making sure you get your ears, your neck, the back of your neck, your chest, or anything that's exposed, your arms, your hands. One of the things that people have a lot of trouble with me when they meet me, besides the face, is that my neck isn't all wrinkly and saggy and my hands aren't. You know, I don't have spots all over or any of that stuff, and I'm almost 60. So, you know, I look at myself in the mirror. When I think about 60 being 2.5 years away, I'm like, I hope things don't change in a hurry. You know what I mean? I wake up one morning and it all went to pot in one day. So, you know, because I don't look 60 to me. I don't feel 60, but there's a whole thing behind that. You know, I work out, I try to eat right. I have what I want when I want, because part of being older is like, F it. If I want the hamburger, I'm going to eat the hamburger, even though I know it's bad for me. But my diet overall consistently is very healthy. I do smoothies. I talk about that on the channel. I take collagen peptides, either in my tea or my smoothie. I work out every day. There's some part of me physically that I'm working to keep strength and bone density up in. So I think it's the package. I look okay. I don't look like I had work done because I haven't, but I don't sound older and I don't move older and my energy isn't older. So people are like, you're lying. You know, you're lying. And I'm like, I'm not lying. So there's a whole thing to that. And all of those things benefit your skin. Now, obviously a good diet from the inside out with, you know, leafy greens, vitamin K2, all those minerals, vitamin C, things high in vitamin C, nothing a medical doctor isn't going to tell you.
Right.
Low carb, not necessarily low fat. I'm not a big believer in that because I do intermittent fasting. So kind of understand the science of fats, but healthy fats like olive oil, you know, krill oil, you get flax seeds, sunflower seeds. We could go on all day about food. But the big thing that I don't eat is sugar.
Right.
So I don't eat a lot of, if I do have something sugary, like in the smoothie, it'll be a banana. So it's a natural sugar. And of course I get all these comments, that raises your blood sugar. No, it doesn't. Anyway, bananas don't do that. Fruit, you would have to eat so much fructose, you'd be sick to your stomach before it could give you the impact of 2 tablespoons of regular refined sugar, sugarcane sugar.
Right.
So I stay away from that. Doesn't mean I don't have something every once in a while. It's fall, you know, I like pumpkin bars just like everybody else. I'll have one, but I won't, they're not a staple in the house. You can't walk around in my house and find sweets. I don't buy them. So, you know,
that's much how I live too. My, you know, I don't have them in my house, but it doesn't mean I won't eat them. And life is about balance. It's not about so strict that you don't enjoy life, because what's the sense then if you can't enjoy anything?
No, exactly. And I try to strike that balance. It's like the thing I say, my channel is not about looking younger, which is, I have to work really hard at that because the virility of the videos has been the anti-aging stuff. So I try to tell people, the deal is to look and feel as good as you can look at your age. So if you need plastic surgery to correct something that the things that we're talking about aren't going to, have at it. If you can afford it and it's going to make you feel better and look better, why not?
Right, exactly.
Don't let, it's nobody else's business or opinion of, you know, if some people have genetic predispositions to extra sagginess around the eye area, but it doesn't matter what we do, it's not going to improve it. They're going to have some sort of procedure. Now there's RF therapy, there's, you know, radio frequency, all therapy, a lot of these therapies that work over time to help tighten the skin that are non-invasive or minimally invasive. But some people, it's just, and I say that in my videos, and I think that's sort of freaky too to people, because usually on YouTube, you're for lack of a better word, a hard ass about this or a hard ass about that. You either no plastic surgery, never get Botox, it's awful, it's poison, you know, they're all over the place with that. Or you get the other thing where it's like, you know, it's all about getting plastic surgery to get, you know, there are videos undoing plastic surgery on celebrities, which I just think that's rude. But, you know, deconstructing the plastic surgery on somebody First of all, I don't care who the plastic surgeon is doing, it's not accurate, because you don't have an accurate. The only way to do that is the same thing I said about your butt and the rest of your skin. Take a picture of a celebrity before it and after it, and that's what's been done. I mean,
Right.
they go in there and they try to like make it just, it's like, wow, really? That's just rude.
I had someone say something about plastic surgery one time, and he was completely against it. I have no idea why, but he was just like, "Oh, that's," he said, "That's not natural." And I said to him, I said, "So if you were to have your front tooth knocked out, I go, and you had to have an implant, but that's not natural. Are you going to just walk around, with a tooth missing, or are you going to put an implant in there, because you don't want to walk around with a hole in your mouth?" And I think it kind of hit him to go, "Oh yeah, I see what your point is." Because I go,
Right.
it's like what you just said. It's whatever makes people feel good about themselves. Why do you care? Like
Yeah.
if they're doing Botox or you wearing makeup or whatever, if it makes them feel better,
Right.
what
Well,
that off your
and, and what's happened is, what always happens is that people take extreme cases of things like, I won't name any names, but there are celebrities that have far too much work done and they look freakishly different. Okay, that is an addiction. That's a person who's addicted to plastic surgery. They're not happy with how they look, and they just, we've had celebrities do that. We've had non-celebrities do that. If you live in Florida, you see it all the time. Believe it or not, people don't believe me. I'll say, "Oh yeah, go for a walk in the neighborhood some night. You'll see it." That is not good plastic surgery. Plastic surgery is an enhancement to help you look your best, not to roll you back 30 years. So a lot of times people take an extreme example and they try to make that the whole thing. Right? That's plastic surgery. And that's probably what your friend was thinking, that's freaky. It doesn't look natural. Well, there's a lot. The best plastic surgery is the stuff that people get done that nobody knows they had done.
I agree.
I've had friends like that. They've told me I had this done and I would have never known. And I looked for that stuff. They just had an enhancement for something. Maybe it was the eyes, nose, something. And it fixed something for them that they really didn't like. And they looked great. I mean,
Yeah.
that's plastic surgery. That's good plastic surgery. And then, of course, this plastic surgery for people who get disfigured and things happen. There's a lot of amazing things they can do. So let's not take the extreme example of ridiculousness and call that in its entirety. It's not.
Right.
I wish they could name that something else. Maybe that should be plastic surgery, and the other is skin enhancement surgeries. They should change that and separate those two.
Yeah, because they're definitely different. I would
Oh
say,
yeah.
for me, like I would never say, "Oh, I'll never get plastic surgery." But what I do know I do is like you talk about things like things that bother me. For instance, my eyes. Sometimes I feel like my eyes never look like they're open, and that's just over time. You get that saggy eye, and I noticed you have an episode about that, and I was like,
I do.
I will go check out that episode and I'll do what you tell me to do before I get plastic surgery. And if that works,
Yeah.
that's great. Then I don't have to worry about plastic. So
Yeah.
I'm always about doing the least invasive thing first, and then if that doesn't work, then we can go on to the next thing. But
Yeah, because I'm testing, right now I'm testing red light therapies, which there's some new devices. One is for the eyes called oh my God, what's the name of it? Well, the Lumo is the one for your face. I'm testing. There's another. It's like a pen, but it's a red light therapy that you use around the eyes. Now, RF therapy, radio frequency, and then red light and blue photon, which is what that pen does. The effects of that are not going to show up for months because it takes the body a long time to create the collagen, to thicken the skin back up. But those therapies are showing a lot of promise. So I try to make sure that I include the topical way, the new technologies that are now available in the home that you don't have to go to a salon and pay ridiculous amounts of money for over months, because it does take months. And then, of course, when it's time to talk to a dermatologist or your medical doctor about some enhancement. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of alternatives. What I think is funny about the judgments of that is they all have the same goal. no matter which one. It's the same goal. I want to look better.
Right.
You know, I don't want to look tired. I don't want to look. And when people say I don't want to look older, they're not saying I don't want to look 20. They're saying I don't want to look older than I am. You know, I think most people are okay unless they have that phobia, that weird thing going on where they're getting all that surgery done. I think most people feel like they kind of earned where they are. So they don't want to look 20. I don't want to be 20.
No.
You know,
I don't want to look 80, but I don't want to look, like you said, 20, because there's certain I feel like there's a certain amount of I don't
respect and credibility.
right. You know, I've gotten to this age and I look like this because of all I've gone through in life. Now I want to look the best that I can, but I'm not afraid of looking older. Like I don't have any desire to look like I'm 20 years old. You know.
Yeah. So
you look ridiculous if you did.
Now the two groups that have the most trouble with my content on that subject tend to either be guys, and how they ended up on my video, I'm not sure how that happened, that are totally not into taking care of themselves or skincare. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong. That's your choice. They'll be the ones that have the weirdest comments, or really young girls. You know, if I say like 20s, that's really young to me, 20. 20s with already forming some body image issues. That's the ones that usually call me a liar. It's not usually people close to my age. People close to my age have a relative radar for that sort of thing. They know you're telling the truth. They know, you know, they know. So those are, and I don't get a lot of negative comments, you know, for my channel, for a YouTube channel that does what I talk about, and I watch other YouTubers and I read their comments. They're mostly nice. Yeah. I mean, most people are genuinely interested, or have, if they do very rarely criticize, it's usually they may have a theory or a concept that they think is correct and I may not be correct on. I'll get those, but that's okay. That stuff doesn't bother me. So I'm really lucky that, and my channel gets shared out a heck of a lot. I would say the explosive growth over the last probably 6 months has been from people sharing the information out. It's like, hey, we were talking about this issue with this, you know, skin thing, you know, because women will talk about it, and men are starting to talk about it more and more now. And you should go look at this guy's channel because he's our age, and he doesn't look like it. So, you know,
talking about, and that's important, because all anyone has to do is just listen to you for a couple of minutes and go, wow, this guy's really informative. He knows what he's talking about. He's not just, you know, slinging stuff out there for, you know, to sound good.
My favorite critical comment was, well, yeah, look at that. You eat right and you work out and you don't let gray get in your beard or on your temples, which I don't. People ask me, do you? I should bet your ass I diet. So, I mean, you can still see it in there. It's not like, you know, there's gray hair. It doesn't show up on camera very much because I don't have very much. But again, if I'm going to work that hard, that's part of my life, to look and feel good, I'm going to look and feel good. That's when I say, if I needed Botox, I would get it. If that was absolutely the only way, I don't. So I'm fortunate. But if that were the only avenue for me, or a Restylane injection to get rid of a deep crease, I just had a client the other day I have a blog, an interactive blog. So people are able to direct message me with stuff. And he had went long email about the things that he was looking at doing and didn't want to be sold on something that made the doctor money instead of being what he really, really needed. And I said, well, first, if you feel that way about the doctor, that's a red flag. Second, go get a second opinion, because there's none of these skin enhancement plastic surgery places that will not give you a free consultation. So we get another one,
right?
You know, so, you know, because that is all of those things do have some risk involved. You know, you can be allergic to the injection. They can mess up. So, you know, is the famous thing, Madonna and her leaky eye. Remember back about the late 90s, she got Botox and they missed, and her eye was all, she wore a patch for how long? Like a whole season of her music was a patch on her eye. Everybody thought it was part of it. No, it's not part of that. It's not the problem. So, that's, again, it is all of it together. And then the other thing that I try to teach people is patience, because just like gaining or losing weight, your skin doesn't get that way in a week. You don't wake, and people will try to tell me that I woke up one day, or I had a baby, or I had this happen, or my mom died, something happened and I look like crap. Well, it didn't happen in a week or 2 weeks. Your skin doesn't do that.
Right.
So you may look tired and stressed out, which is going to show up in your face and on your skin, and your skin may lose moisture and elasticity. But all those things can come back just by getting back on track. But when it comes to reversing stuff like sun damage, fine lines, wrinkles, dark spots, sagginess, crepey skin, all of those things we associate with that, the things that work that are non-surgical take a lot of time and consistency. And I think one other thing besides sunscreen that I tell people is I have a very disciplined and consistent nature. I'm very disciplined and consistent, which means that I do the stuff I'm supposed to do, even when I don't feel like doing it. It's like brushing my teeth. I'm really weird about that. I have very white teeth. Yeah, they're real. I get accused of that too. Your teeth aren't real. People are weird. But I'm very consistent. I go to the dentist. If I have to have any kind of deep cleaning done, I'm going to have that done. I'm going to do what I need to do to stay healthy. Because again, I have learned early on, as I have seen other people have issues, I started early and I was consistent. So there's no reason I'm not going to do that now.
Right.
If I start to gain a little too much weight, if I'm getting a little off my diet, a lot of events and a lot of stuff going on, where I'm having to eat things I don't normally eat, I keep that into account and I make changes to offset that. So
that's a great point, though. It didn't happen overnight, just like gain all that weight overnight, and you're not going to get back in shape overnight, and your skin's not going to get back in shape overnight. You need to be consistent, and that's a great point. That's a great point, because they want to see immediate effects.
And it cuts both ways. If you buy a crappy product, you're really not going to know it's crappy unless you've used it a couple months.
Right.
And you take a picture when you start using. Another thing I tell you, please take a selfie when you start using something, and then take one a month out and one 2 months out. If there's no change, the product's not doing anything. By 2 months, you've given your skin enough time for the effects of what you're doing to come to the surface, because that old skin has to move up. We produce it in the deeper levels, and it moves upward to the outside. So that's why retinol is such a wonderful ingredient, because it helps work on those deeper level cells that are being proliferated and recreated. They're healthier. They slough off the bad DNA cells. Tretinoin, which is prescription strength retinol, has been shown to take precancerous cells and slough them off. So yeah, I don't know why skin cancer doctors aren't making people slather themselves in that. But anyway, not for me to say, but over a course of 60 days, you begin to see the results of that. But it's what's the word? It's gradual. It's not fast, So I have to work with people a lot. And then if you get a really great product, that's why I really try to stick to ingredients, because I know what ingredients will do. So it doesn't really matter what the name is wrapped around it. What really matters is what the ingredients are in the formulation, how much of percentage is in that formulation, and what else is mixed in with it. Is it going to hinder that ingredient from working, or is it going to boost that ingredient's ability to work? So even that, a really good skin product, you're going to have to wait. You'll see hydration. Skin will look better if it's hydrated. It'll look puffier and moister and all that stuff. It'll look healthier. But that thing that people are looking for, where there's no spots anymore, or there's less lines and wrinkles or no crepiness, that takes time, at least 60 days. Even with tretinoin, even with prescription, it's going to take 60 days for you to see anything. And people are like, what? Because there are all these crazy promises.
Right. Just like in and getting in shape. All these crazy products out there that says, "Oh, lose 60 pounds in 30 days" or some nonsense
Let
like
me tell
that.
you, I tell people, you want to lose weight, you have to do, this is my opinion. This is what I do. For me, it has to be intermittent fasting. I have to stay at 1,200 calories or a little bit less a day, no sugar, and I have to work out and get sleep, rest, and I'll drop it. I dropped 23 pounds in a month one time. So not the healthiest thing to do. I wouldn't do that now. I did that in my 30s, but it does work. But again, it's one of those things that takes time.
Right. Well, as a
And
personal
consistency.
trainer, I can, you know, agree with you and say yes. Intermittent fasting is one of the best things you could do.
Oh yeah.
Staying away from sugar is an absolute. As much as again, you don't want to do away with it where you can't have anything that's ever sweet, but don't make it a staple of your diet, and don't have it in your house if at all possible. And those kind of things that you talked about earlier, those are just common sense things that you can follow to make your life easier so you can stay in shape, look your best.
Yeah.
And one of the things you talk about is is the importance of working out, the importance of vitamins, the importance of the food that you eat, and how it affects your skin. And 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 I think that's something they need to make sure they listen to, because it's not just what you slather on your skin, but what you put in your body as well.
Yeah. And that's, so it goes back to the sunscreens, the same sort of issue. If you don't use sunscreen and you're going to be out in the sun, none of this stuff we're doing is going to help
Right.
in the light. It's just not, because the sun is breaking down the collagen faster than we can do anything to preserve and prop it back up. So, hydrating with lots of water, sugar is just really, they've done studies that come out the last 10 years. Now, I was talking about this in 2004 and 6 when I was talking about the acne issue and why it wasn't getting better for people after all this time. And I was talking about the problem with dairy and altered dairy, and especially for women. And I was talking about sugar and probiotics, and this is before Activia, believe it or not. And I got poo-pooed all the time. But when MRSA started to become a big problem, the antibiotic issue where we had the super strains of bacteria, they started paying attention in the medical community to that, not because of me, but in general. Then suddenly you see patients eating yogurt, and then they're sent my mom home from the hospital with probiotics to make sure, and I'm like, you know, so, and now we know that sugar, the glycemic index, sugar spikes, rosacea, psoriasis, eczema, acne, all react to that. I knew that as a teenager because I could go and drink a Coca-Cola, not any badness on them, and I could see my skin get redder after I would drink it. That's how I figured out sugar way before there was the internet. I had to go to the library and check out books. I had to do it the hard way. So it's good that people are learning to take things out of their diet, their cells, to go on a vacation and put them in one thing at a time. And they're self-learning that. You used to have to go to the doctor to do that test, but now people have learned enough to go, I'm just going to cut all that stuff out. I'm just going to eat salads with no sugar, sugar-free dressing. I'll get down to veggies. And usually what happens after a week or two, whatever the issue is goes away. And then they start adding stuff back in and they find it. They find what the thing is that causes the problem and they know to stay away from it. And I think that's great, because I think that means people are owning their own health decisions right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And and that's what they need to do is to start owning it and taking responsibility for it. All right, so let's do this. Well, I want to talk about the face for just a second. So we know that the skin on the face is much thinner than it is on the body. Is this why it's so important to use different soaps and different moisturizers and things on the face than what we use on our body? Because for years and years, this is what I've used on my body, and this is what I used on my face. And until my partner, said, "Yeah, you got to stop doing that." And I was like, "Why?" It's like, because
That's a good question.
he goes,
Yeah,
it's going to dry out your face and your,
that's right.
so and oddly enough, I'm starting to get these dry patches that are driving me crazy. And so my question was, I listened to one of your episodes and you had recommended this Neutrogena Hydra Boost, and
Creamy cleanser. Yep.
this thing is amazing, absolutely amazing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ask you, why can't I put this on my face? It works so well on my body. Why can't I put it on my?
Because there's a facial version. So here, and it'll make total sense when I tell you. Again, we go back to exposed parts of the body versus unexposed parts. The skin that's covered tends to retain a lot more of its moisture, a lot more oil. We produce more oil on other parts of our body than we do on the face, especially around the eyes. This area right here, the raccoon area, as I call it, has the least amount of oil glands on your body. You would think it would be the other way around, but it's not. That's why people get dry eyes so easily, and why sunscreen bothers your eyes, and sometimes retinol bothers your eyes. Very dry. And if you use a body formulated wash, a lot of times they have sulfates, not Neutrogena doesn't, but a lot of times they have surfactants to help cleanse that off, and your body continue. You put a good moisturizer on, you're probably okay. Now, not everybody. Some people with very dry skin, it's the same issue as if they used it on their face. They have to use a creamy, hydrating cleanser, one that can help lift off oil, dirt, bacteria, but not dry out their skin, not pull too much moisture and oil out. So facial cleansers fall into two basic categories. There is the creamy hydrating cleanser, which they're usually white. They may foam a little bit. I have one in my own line. It's borage oil based, but what it does is it helps remove oil, dirt, and bacteria, lifts that without taking too much moisture and oil away from the skin, so that the skin feels damp and hydrated after it's been washed. If it feels squeaky clean and tight, that is the wrong face wash. Not even body wash. That's the wrong thing to have on your skin for your face. If you have really super oily skin or acne prone skin, then a clear cleanser, which is going to have more surfactant in it, is going to go deeper and strip out a little bit more oil. Still not good if your skin feels squeaky tight. So it really is, again, with so much variability with people and their skin types and their backgrounds or ancestry, all of that plays a role. Your skin needs to feel clean, refreshed, and hydrated, no matter what you're using. And body washes often won't do that for most people. That doesn't mean some people don't use them and it doesn't do that for them. You know, some body washes formulation are close enough that that person uses it and it doesn't cause them a problem. You know, people used to use bar soap. What was the joke about the guys using Irish Spring as a face? You know, they had the wax, the old lard versions of those soap. People are and full of fragrance, full of alcohol. Bad news for your skin, not even body skin. Those deodorant washes, you don't see they're still around, but most people don't use them. And then, of course, using a material like a buff puff or sponge, you've probably heard me talk about that on the channel.
I did.
To help those products work better. So that lifts that very outer layer of dead skin that's still stuck off. Okay. So you want your facial skin to be clean so that the products you apply to it will work. If you use a waxy, heavy body wash, you're going to put something on that's either going to irritate your skin or it's going to be blocked from absorbing and working. So that's why.
Okay, so
long answer.
You did talk about Buff Puff, and it's this material that you use to wash your face. Now, you said don't wash your face with I forget what it was, but I was like, so this is what I use on my body. It's one of those.
That's fine.
Is it okay to wash your face with this, or is this too harsh?
Too harsh.
Okay, see, that's why my face hurts.
Yeah, too harsh. You want to use, you can use a washcloth. I don't like washcloths either. For the ladies that listen, I don't like makeup removers that are cloths either. We don't want to pull or tear the skin, basically. And so, especially around the eyes, is really where the issue usually comes in. This skin is very thin right through here. So a facial device like a sponge, like the Buff Puff sponge, and there are many versions of that out there. I mean, there are all sorts of brands. I think the walnut sponge is one. There's just a bunch. If you look up Buff Puff, Amazon, who will like suggest 50 million of those things. Just make sure the one you use feels gentle and you're not scrubbing with it. More like polishing.
Okay.
We're not, I say on the videos, we're not scrubbing a pan. We just want to lightly, very lightly all over. I have used Buff Puffs all over since I was I'm further back. I was in high school when I started using them. When I dermatologist, I didn't use that. So that would have made me like 15, 16.
Wow.
So I've used them that long. What is that? 40 something years. That's 41 years. So 41 years I've been using Buff Puffs. I've kept 3M in business. And there's a gentle version, which it's the orange one I recommend people start with, because it's very gentle on the skin. But it really does help clean your skin without stripping too much away.
Now,
once a day. You don't need to do it. If you take 2 showers, don't do it 2 times in a day.
okay.
So
is this sponge okay to use on the body then, or is it?
Yeah, loofah's okay. Again, though, lightly.
Lightly. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we're not we don't ever want to be scrubbing like you're scrubbing a pan. Very lightly. What that does is help foam up the wash, and it helps remove those outer skin cells that get stuck. I did a video review on I can't remember the name of it, the Korean washcloth that's like a loofah. It is reusable. It's goji, something like that. Anyway, I used that. That was really nice. And you just wring it out and let it dry. It just had enough texture. It was sort of like the Buff Puff, but as a washcloth thing. And it was long, so you could put it behind your back and all that stuff. So again, you got to judge how your skin reacts to that stuff. If it's too dry or it's irritated or itchy after you do that, then don't use it, even if it's something I recommend. Because again, everybody's skin is different.
Right. Now, it's important that everybody who's listening or watching this, Chris, when he does his episodes, every product that he talks about, he ends up, there's a link to it below his show, so that you can find these things like the Buff Puff that we're talking about. So if you're curious about it, find the episode where he talks about that, and he links all those things below for you, so it makes it very easy for you to find on top of it, which is another thing I love, because then I don't have to go looking it all up myself. So as somebody who watches your show, I really appreciate that. All right, so let's do this. I had a list of questions from the viewers and listeners, and I kind of just, because many of them were all the same questions, so I took 5 or 6 of the top questions, and I just kind of decided to, tell you what they were asking rather than read one particular email, because then someone else is going to feel left out and go, "Hey, I asked that question too." So
there you go. So no names, right?
No names, and I'm just going to condense them. So
protecting the innocent here.
Exactly. All right, let's see. The first one. They've had deep wrinkles in their forehead since they were in their early teens or late teens, early 20s. Is there anything that this particular person's in their 40s? Is there anything that they can do about the wrinkles in their foreheads without just short of doing Botox? Now, before you answer that, let me tell you something. So I don't have the neck problem either, but it's because I work out and it's just something that I've always been aware of. But what I have noticed is on the back of my neck, these lines have gotten deeper on my neck, like you see in older people. When you give the advice on the forehead, I want to know, will it work back here? And if not, what can I do about that?
All right. 2 for 1. Okay. It's a 2 for 1 question. All right. So if it's sort of like the labial lines that people get here. A lot of times we have genetic features that we don't like, that we associate with aging. And I would, without seeing this person and really talking to him, I would guess that crease is probably his dad's got it, his granddad's got it, or his mom's got it. It's probably just part of the genetics. You could probably use RF therapy, which is radio frequency device, to lighten it up, but it's probably not going to go away if it's been there that long, just simply because that's different than a wrinkle that shows up from sun damage. You're not going to have that kind of sun damage in your early 20s. Right. That's going to be genetic. What it can do is have a filler test out a filler, you would need to go to, obviously, to the dermatologist or a skin enhancement salon, people that are licensed to do this. And what they would do is inject either hyaluronic acid fluid, which your skin already makes, to try to puff that out a little bit, or things like Restylane. Juvederm is a brand of that. So there are some fillers that can work to help make that less noticeable. I don't know if you would get it completely away without plastic surgery, like a facelift would probably get rid of it. So that would be the answer. That Botox is probably not going to it might make that look softer because he's not doing the emotions, raising the eyebrows to work that crease. So it might go away to some degree. I would say, talk to them. They will tell you what's best. If he tells them I've had this since I was 20, they'll probably say, well, probably a filler first, and then maybe Botox to keep you from moving your brow area. So that's what would be my guess.
Okay.
For the back of the neck, there's two things that happen there. One is sort of the same thing. The skin loses elasticity. This part of men, especially with our short hairstyles, get sun over time. So a lot of that's probably sun damage. Yeah, if you start using some of the things that I have recommended for topicals for that area, I probably the most severe sun damage I had was back there. I still have some lines, but they're very much improved. I use a retinol. I use everything I talk about. When I do the face, I do my neck and the back of my neck. Now, you have to retinol, neck can be sensitive to that a little bit, that nighttime retinol moisturizer, but it's really helped me out a lot. So yes, you can do something about it. They're not going to give you Botox in the back of your neck. You could get fillers back there, but I don't know if I've ever heard of anybody doing that exactly. But exfoliation, the same thing, hydration. And then, of course, the retinol is probably going to be the best thing to do.
All right, let me ask you two questions away from this real quick while it's on my mind. One is, what's your favorite retinol? Because I used the retinol. I got this retinol that you had that I don't know if you necessarily recommended it. You said it was the highest. It used to be.
Which one is it?
The different.
Yeah, different is, that's Adiplane.
Okay,
yeah.
So you said it used to be you had to have a prescription. Right, and now you don't. And so I started using this. I was using Cerave, is that right?
Resurfacing? Cerave resurfacing?
It was a
retinol.
Yeah, I was using that.
They're both good.
And so it seemed like the first time that I bought it, it worked really well. And then I started buying it and I didn't feel anything with the Cerave. And I don't know if I bought something different. I haven't been able to find it again. So.
All of the retinols work in a similar fashion. The difference is there are different derivatives of vitamin A that are turned into retinol. Basically, most retinols have a two-step process. You put them on your skin, and they go through a conversion into retinaldehyde. Then the retinaldehyde goes into a conversion into what your skin can use. That's what usually causes the ones that have irritation. Adiplane really was developed for acne problems. However, it has been useful for a lot of people. They tolerate it well. It's still a retinoid, still going to help improve collagen production and all of that. And it's relatively inexpensive. And you're right, it did used to be prescription only. It's still not going to be as strong as tretinoin. Tretinoin is like the key. That's when you're getting up there. That's why it's still prescribed. Dermatologist has to watch your skin and make sure you're tolerating it well. That's the best of the best when you get up in the prescription strengths. The Cerave retinols are encapsulated, which means they are, like what just sounds, it's almost like time released. So when they go into the skin, they're very mild. You're not going to get a sting or a redness, although they will deliver the benefit to your skin over time. And remember, the benefit that we are looking for isn't going to show up instantly. So it's not one of those products you're going to put on and go, oh, I look like, it's not like that. So, and then there are retinaldehyde retinols, which are already retinaldehyde, and they are Retinal with an A instead of an O. I know, like confusing, right? Those tend to work really well for people because they don't go through the conversion process. The retinaldehyde or retinoic acid, which is what retinaldehyde turns into. So regular retinol, retinaldehyde, retinoic acid works on the skin. Retinaldehyde or retinols, retinaldehyde, retinoic acid. So there's less of all that business chemical changes going on the skin when you use a retinaldehyde. And there's a bunch of those. Maylove has a good one I'm testing. It looks like mustard when it comes. It's really yellow. So I was a little worried to put that on my skin, but it doesn't turn your skin yellow. So it really is about finding what you tolerate well. But most guys tolerate retinols better than women do because women's skin tends to be a little bit thinner and their hormones interact a little bit differently with skincare products than men do. That's why they can't wear retinol when they're pregnant because it can cause some issues. You'd have to really wear a lot of it. They're not going to let you wear prescription strength Retin-A or tretinoin when you're pregnant because it can make some significant changes in your hormones. That's why. It's not going to do anything else. It's not going to poison you and your skin's not going to fall off. But so it really depends on what you're going for and what you can tolerate. I always try to, if people are first starting out on retinol, I have them start low, like the Cerave's, the Adipalene, and then as they get used to that, they bump up to the next one, which is going to be like an Olay Max. Strivectin has a new retinol that's very powerful out. You're going to pay more because you're getting closer to that strength that's getting closer to prescription strength. And then, of course, today I did a whole video on alternatives to retinol, different ingredients that when used together can give you similar benefits without the irritation. So the basic thing you're wanting to accomplish with all of this is to help slow down the destruction of collagen and elastin, help beef up collagen production so that we can get some skin thickening back to help with crepiness, fine lines, wrinkles. And of course, because it repairs those damaged cells and helps remove them, fades dark spots, dark patches, melasma, all those things benefit often from retinol. But again, 60 days before you're going to really see something that's going to be, you're going to put two pictures and go, okay, that really is making a difference. I really do look better. So
what was the retinol that you said you're trying now, the Jello?
Maylove, Maelove,
M-A-E.
I believe is how they spell it. I haven't done the video on it yet, so I can't remember how to spell it. I look at too many products. M-A-E-L-O-V or M-A-E-L-O-V-E, retinol with an A.
Retinol with an A. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just, it's really good stuff.
Is that
it's really
said that retinol isn't really retinol unless it's yellow. And so when you said that, I was like, oh.
Well, yeah, it is unless it's encapsulated. So like Cerave has two retinol products. They have Cerave Retinol Serum and Cerave Resurfacing.
Which one's
retinol serum?
Strong.
Well, they're both good. One is yellow. The original is more yellow. The other one's encapsulated, so it's a more white serum because it's encapsulated. So it really, I mean, I don't know if anybody's selling fake retinol out there, but it's, yeah, most of the time it is a yellowish hue. It's made from vitamin A and beta carotene, so that's where that yellow kind of color comes from. So because vitamin A is yellow or orange when you have it in its raw form. So yeah, it's they're all going to be good. It's just really finding the one that's going to work well for you. And the ones I recommend are all ones that I know are effective and don't cost a fortune, because you can spend a lot of money on these.
Yes, and
you really can. And you're not going to get any more strength. You might get some other ingredients, so you don't have to have so many ingredients in your skincare routine, which is fine. But they're not going to be any stronger. Like even the Olay Max and Strivectin are not prescription strength. So they may be the strongest type of retinol you can get up to that. But I wouldn't have anybody start that. I'd have somebody start. Cerave's is really good. It's really, I use it on my arms, because that's where I have the most sun exposure damage, even with sunscreen. And Cerave totally removed my age spots that I was getting. They're gone. I don't have them at all.
Nice.
Barely have any freckles left. Now that took 6 months.
Right.
So let's be clear. I didn't run and put that on and go, look at that. It wasn't like that. But I've been very consistent with the vitamin C and the retinol at night. And I do retinol on the face, the neck, and the tops of my arms and backs of my hands. No age spots.
And so are you using the hydrating serum of CeraVe?
I'm using the resurfacing serum right now.
Resurfacing serum. Okay.
Retinol. It needs to say retinol on the bottle, because if you don't, you'll be getting just a moisturizer.
Okay.
It'll say retinol.
Gotcha. Okay.
With an O.
With an O.
Because we want to confuse things with the A.
Yeah. All right. So my next question that's kind of often, that I wanted to ask you is, is coffee and tea considered hydrating? Because I know, like, when we talk about getting your water in, or or staying hydrated throughout the day, that they say now that tea and coffee can count towards that. Since
yes, well, it says there's water in it.
Right. Exactly.
The tannins, the health benefits of tea and coffee and green tea, or the tannins, obviously are good for you. The issue with coffee for most people is the amount of caffeine. That's where the problem usually comes in. But there's still, even with that, there's still studies coming out. I think we had 2 this summer talking about how coffee is really good for people with digestion issues, and the caffeine in and of itself applied to the skin will reduce puffy eyes and stuff. So there are products you can buy. I did one on that too, video. Caffeine is really good for if you have puffy eyes. It really reduces that. It constricts the vasodilators, which dilate the small blood vessels, and then in their constrictors, which that's what caffeine does. It constricts those. I drink tea, a lot of just plain black tea without sugar, and I feel totally hydrated. In fact, I usually have to cut that off before I go to bed pretty early. Otherwise, I'm up. So I guess, it probably does keep you going. It probably keeps your system flushed out, but I don't think that it's going to dehydrate you. A lot of people, I drink water. I like fizzy water, like, what's that brand? Used to be bubbly, but now it's another one that's sugar-free, but it's a naturally flavored sparkling water. I like sparkling water. So as long as you're going, and all the doctors tell you, if when you go to pee, for lack of a better way, it is light yellow. If it's light yellow lemonade to clear, you're hydrated. If it's dark, you need more water. So that's one way to tell at any point in time when you go. Just look at how dark it is, and if it's really dark, then you're not hydrated.
Excellent point. Okay, so number 2 was, I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one who suffers from this, but they were talking about dry skin patches. I tend to get them right here and right here, right here and right here. And then I started getting them on this, and I was like, what in the world? You don't fall apart at 60, but it starts to, experiencing things that you go, really?
That could be some sun damage can cause those dry patches. There's a name for those that escapes me. When you get older, when you get older, anything that you had on your skin younger, it would just a dry patch or just a freckle. When you get older, it gets renamed into some horrid cancer sounding name. But if you're using the Buff Puff and you're hydrating and you're using a glycolic acid, those should go away. If they don't, if you continue to have them after that, it's really good just to let a dermatologist, if you go to one, know that you're having that issue, just so they can watch and make sure there's nothing going on from the sun damage. Because a lot of times, and I don't like to say this because it scares people, I'm not trying to scare people, but sometimes dry areas do lead to those, what's the first thing they remove? I can't even think today. Not melanoma, that's the bad one. But anyway, the skin cancer cells, the benign ones that they like to remove, sometimes that's indicative that that's something's going on. Because if it's just dry skin and you're just not producing oil in those areas very well anymore, all the stuff I'm talking about is going to help. That's going to go away. Like glycolic acid, the retinol, those are going to go away. If they keep to continue or they get worse and itchy, you need to go have them looked at. Just just so you know.
At least for me, I don't know about the people who wrote in, but for me, they're not itchy. And glycolic acid, is that just a separate?
Alpha, it's the, well, I use alpha hydrox, or it used to be alpha hydrox. Alpha Skincare's renewal serum. It's 14% glycolic acid. You can get that from the Ordinary. That all the skincare brands have a glycolic acid product somewhere. Either it's a face wash or a toner or a serum. But what that does is it helps those dry skin cells detach from the new skin underneath. Because as we get older, that slows down. That's why I said it could just be a function of that, less oil and they don't want to come off. And if that's the case, then glycolic acid and a buff puff and doing all those things, hydrating and retinol, those are going to go away. I don't have them. So, that, I think the reason I don't is because of the skincare routine that I use all the time. But it's not uncommon for people over 40 to have that.
Okay,
it's very common.
All right, let's see. Number 3 was how to protect your face and scalp when shaving. For guys like me who have to shave my scalp, I don't know what these people have. For me, I have a very tough beard, but like skin, and so it makes. I had a barber one time take a straight razor and shave my face, and it was bloody because he felt so bad because in order to shave the beard, but my skin is like baby smooth skin, and I told him, I go,
so he was cutting. Yeah,
that's not your fault, that's just the way it is.
No, it's I use an electric shaver when I don't have this, which I've had this probably the last 3 years now. It depends on how your skin behaves. If you have the problem with scalp hair is that oftentimes it's the cuticle around the hair follicle is raised a little bit, which is what happened to your face. So when you use a straight razor or even one designed, you got to be sure you use shaving cream or something to lubricate that so that it goes over those. If you don't, it'll take them off. And that razor rash is not fun from that. Plus the hair follicle can get caught in there trying to come out. You get ingrown hair and all that stuff. So the guys that have the biggest issues with that, I always tell to use something electric, and they go, well, I'm going to have a little stubble. Well, you can set some of these new electric shavers, get close enough. Yeah, you're going to feel a little something, but at least you're not taking your skin off when you do it. So it really depends. If you can't get it to work with a straight razor, then you're going to have to switch to something else, like an electric.
I personally don't use a straight. I mean, I use the 5-bladed razor.
Yeah, and those two, some of them, those are the ones that'll usually float pretty good with a good cream. But you still need to use a cream because those follicles are sticking up, or the cuticle around the follicle, around the pore, is higher than the surrounding skin. You're going to take it off.
I was going to say, you have hair.
It's going to itch.
You could do an episode about those electric razors for hair.
I have all that coming. Believe me, all the hair stuff is coming.
Oh, good. That's good news.
Your beard, does minoxidil really grow your beard hair out? What to do with patchy beard and
really? I never even heard that. But then
I have a whole thing for guys. I'm testing out guy products. I did Tige Hanley and some things back. I have some stuff for guys only. But I am working on videos for that, like Lumen, which is a big men's skincare line. I'm testing that out for guys only. And so, yeah, there's stuff coming on all that.
We're going to have you back on when that happens.
Yeah, a lot of, well, most of what I talk about works for either gender. It doesn't matter. The skin is not that different, but guys like things to smell a certain way, and generally like multitasking things because they don't want 50 million steps.
Right, exactly.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to find, things that will work and do all the things that needs to go on with your skin, but you don't spend an hour in the bathroom because you won't do it. Right. So most people won't do it. Ladies will do it for the most part, but not everybody. There's the same way. Time is time. So I'm working on that for guys.
Excellent.
More guy stuff. Like on my blog, I have a guys section that does have some of this stuff in there, like the folliculitis and, you know, scalp rash, razor rash, all those things. I talk about those, but more to come.
Again, getting off of the questions from the listeners and stuff, I did have a question about the retinol. And like in the evening, you were talking about putting this on, which I do. Now, does this go over the whole face or just the dry patches, or you put it because you put your arms or hands everywhere? So,
Retinol needs to go wherever you are trying to reduce or stop any signs of aging. So generally all over the face, except on the eyelids.
okay.
Because you need a specially formulated retinol eye cream if you're going to do your eyes. Just simply because it can be very irritating. Eyelid skin is the thinnest skin you've got. And a lot of people can't tolerate it. Even if they do it first, they start having issues with scaliness and dry skin on their eyelids, which is no fun. So, you know, between the eyes, the forehead, the cheek area, the earlobes, those areas that tend to handle it very well, but just not in the eyes.
Okay. So after you put the retinol on, is it okay to put a moisturizer on? Because I've been using
Yes.
Peels here, but I know that you had recommended some moisturizers, which
Well, that one's good. That one's good, especially since you have the dry patch skin thing going on. That's going to be better than a Hydro Boost because Hydro Boost is very light. Even though they do have an extra dry skin version of it's hyaluronic acid, when people have dry patchy skin or extra dry skin, I usually recommend a ceramide type cream, which is what that is. But the retinol does need to go on first.
Okay, and then
so that it can be absorbed.
And wait for that to be absorbed, and then
just a few minutes. It doesn't take long.
All right, very good. All right, let's see. Number 4. Does you already answered this, but I'd like for you to go back over this again. Does taking collagen orally really work?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a qualified yes. Let me explain what I mean by that. I tested Vital Proteins collagen peptides out for 8 weeks. I'm still taking them every day. What I noticed was it really helped with hydration. I have very dry skin on my back. I just always have genetically. I just don't have a lot of oil goes on back there. Even when I had acne, I didn't have it back there. So I tried everything. I have the back thing to put the lotion on and all the stuff. And I noticed taking that I didn't have that problem anymore. My fingernails do grow faster. I didn't really have nail problems, so I can't honestly say they're stronger, but they do grow faster. So my theory on this is, and this is the qualified part, is that, oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The qualified part of it is that I believe there's 19 amino acids. If you're deficient in something for hair, skin, nails, joint health, if you're deficient and you start getting those protein amino acids, that issue is going to get better. That explains to me why some people get improvement in their joint health. I already knew that they help joints. My mom was on that stuff for several years. They had her on that. That was helpful because she had very severe osteoporosis. So it's going to help with all those things if you have issues. So yes, that's a qualified yes. Is it going to help you? Yeah. And studies are showing that people that take it are seeing improvement in the levels of collagen in their skin. So again, it's a building block. It's one of those things that's going to take time. So there's no reason not to take them. They're not going to harm you. It's not harmful to take them because it's stuff in food. It's just a concentrated form of them. You don't need to take more than what they recommend. It's 2 scoops a day. And that one, there's all sorts of versions of these. There's there's vegan version, and then there's marine version made from algae and stuff like that. So yeah, I think they're wonderful. I think they've been very helpful for me for dry skin because I did have that issue. I don't have it now. So yeah, I would take them. I mean, there's no reason not to.
Is there a particular brand that you like that sticks out to you?
I like the unflavored Vital Proteins because I can put it in tea. I can put it in a smoothie. It goes anywhere. It's not flavored. But there are several different brands out there. I would look for the highest rated brands with the most interviews, with the most reviews and the highest level of feedback to get an idea. And keeping in mind, again, not everything works for everybody. Those are not certainly an overnight thing, but they are amino acids you need anyway. So yeah, I think I still taking them. So that should tell you something.
Yes. Okay. All right. Last thing here is different skincare each season. So I guess they were asking, does your skincare routine change up depending on the season? Like we're coming into winter now. Of course, Florida's going to have a much milder winter than what they have up there in Pennsylvania, as you were talking about. Uh, does our skincare routine change?
Yeah, even in Florida. Yeah, even in Florida, because the air gets drier. It's really not so much the temperature that's the issue. It's the relative humidity or dew point. So when a dew point, which we rarely have dew points in the lower 30s in Florida, we do have it, but not very often. But for most people, when the dew point's at 30% or less, or if you live out west, you know this already because it's dry all the time. You really do need something to go over your moisturizing cream. Like if you're using hyaluronic acid or Hydro Boost, you really do need a ceramide cream to put on top of that to cap that and hold that moisture in. So yeah, it does change. It does change a lot for a lot of people. You have to kind of pull back on your skincare acids a little bit. You need to make sure you're hydrated. Try to humidify your home or your office. I just did a video on this whole thing about the portable ticket. I think it was last Thursday, maybe. As the air dries, that's what you need to watch for. So, and still wear sunscreen because the sun rays, especially here. And again, you have to judge your environment and how your skin behaves. If you start using a ceramide cream and you feel sticky or oil, it's too much, then you don't have to do it. But for a lot of people, I know when I lived up there, up north, I needed it. It was my skin. I learned how to finally deal with that and not have the issue anymore. Warm showers, not hot. Get that moisturizer on as quickly as possible after the shower or bath so you trap as much leftover moisture in your skin. Not going full out with scrubs and irritating products, exfoliators during those months. You can still use things like glycolic acid, but you back it off to like once or twice a week. Still use the buff puff to keep this, those skin cells off. But really, basically, it's all about hydration.
Okay, I have one last question now that you brought up the whole warm shower thing again. Can you have the same effect if you take a hot shower and then before you get out, turn the water to cold and take a shower for like a couple minutes where it's cold? Will that take care of the fact that you took a hot shower to begin with?
No, it will energize you. It will energize. Now, what I can say, energize you, because what it does is it quickly opens and closes your blood vessels, so that can make you feel alive and awake. Cold water typically will do that. There's a whole lot of, I won't call it science, but historical theory about why that's good. Rarely does a human need to take a super hot shower. Now, if you've had a really rough day and your muscles are sore, whatever, you want to hop in the hot tub or the hot bath or the hot shower, that's fine. But as a general rule, you don't need super hot water to get clean. And actually, it can strip too much of the oil from your skin, especially in the wintertime. That's why I think I just said when we were talking about that warm water to cool water. No one that lives in Pennsylvania wants a cool shower, I can tell you. It doesn't matter how warm the heat is, you're cold when you get out.
Right.
But, you don't do your skin any favors with super hot water on an ongoing basis. It's very harsh. It's hard on your hair. It's hard on your eyes. It's just hard on your skin. And when you get out, you lose a lot of that moisture, evaporates very quickly. And you don't want to do that. So probably the fairest answer is if you were to do that, you would retain more moisture in your skin when you got out to dry off. But it's not like hair where the hair shaft opens when it's hot. That is really true. You can damage hair with super hot water, because it frays the little, hairs are just little compiled pieces of collagen. That's basically what they are. And when they super hot, those things expand and they fray. So it weakens the hair shaft. So yeah, I mean, warm water, and by that I mean, 80, 90-degree water is warm enough. I mean, hot water, anything over 114, that's hot. Like that's getting really, 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 really hot. Burn yourself. So you don't want to do that.
Okay. I'm gonna have to work on that. That's that's my big thing.
Well, do it in stages. Do your regular shower, and then take it down just a little bit,
Yeah.
and then do that for a week. Just start off with it that warm, so you know where that is on the dial. Okay, you'll get used to it. You will. Just like we live here, when it's 68 degrees, people are putting coats on because we've acclimated to the heat.
Right.
And it feels super cold. You will acclimate to the water the same way. It'll feel warm. And you get it down to about, 85, 90 degrees. That's still hot. But at least it's not going to be like boiling hot. You shouldn't be red when you get out of the shower. I tell people, if your skin is red from the hot water, that's too hot. Okay. That's way too hot.
Yeah, it's not that funny. You can always tell somebody who's from Florida. They're wearing especially women, they wear their UGG boots when it's 65 degrees.
The first, usually what is it? Right before Thanksgiving, we'll get a 60-degree day, and they're in parkas with flip flops. So, and my legs and feet would be the thing that I wouldn't want to be cold, but people are strange.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
But it is the acclimation that just means, we're walking around, it's almost 90, but the humidity's down. It feels really good outside. Yeah. I could go for a walk in the park tonight. I'm like, this is nice. And other people are like going, it's 88. I'm like, well, it feels good to me.
Yeah, exactly. It really does. Well, listen, let's talk about your YouTube channel, where people can find you, your social media, and let everybody know where they can find you and get all this great advice from you, because you go into such great detail in your episodes. You even talk about saggy arms, like the triceps.
That's one I just did. I don't have that, and they're like.
And so I was like,
I don't have, what is it? The flapping wings there. That's what they call it. I don't have
exactly.
And that's because I work out though. I mean, I try to tell you that's exercise because it keeps you pliable and you're, all that stuff.
But that's it's like as people get older, they have to understand. Look, this is what you have to do. You're not going to be able to put a cream on your triceps and make them tighter either. So.
What happens, and we didn't really touch on this, is the loss of muscle and bone density. If you allow that to happen, you're going to sag.
Right.
That's just it's like putting something smaller in a bag that's too big for it. So that's what happens. So you don't have to be an athlete or a fitness model. It's just really making sure you stretch your muscles, you stay active, so your blood circulation's good, and you don't lose muscle mass. Nothing on me jiggles, thank God. Which is still another reason why you're lying. I'm like, no, I just work at it. But yeah, my YouTube channel, easy. If you go to YouTube and you just type Chris Gibson in the YouTube search bar, I pop up. That's my channel name, Chris Gibson, or Chris Gibson Live. You'll see that too, but they're both the same. So it's super easy to find me on YouTube. I'm like the top Chris Gibson on YouTube now. So easy to find. You can type in Chris Gibson skincare. If you type in the word skincare, I come up. So it's all good. I have a blog that the link is really strange, but it's easy to find. Again, just Skin So Fabulous. If you type in those 3 words, Skin So Fabulous, my blog is #1 on Google. That's my blog name. And then it's Chris Gibson Friends on Facebook and on Instagram. And then Skin So Fabulous, my blog has an Instagram too. So I'm to the point now, which is nice, where you just type those things in and you'll find me. I'm the #1 thing under those terms. So that's really, really good. Makes it easy for everybody.
Excellent. For those of you who are listening to this episode and you happen to be driving, please don't try to write this down. I will have his links in the underneath the description, everything, so that you can go there and click onto his sites and find him. So don't worry about it. It'll be there for you. So okay, but Chris, it was a joy. Listen, it's so much information and such great information, and I love your site. I love your content, and I'm looking forward to seeing when you start talking about the hair, and
Yeah, that's coming. There's a whole lot of new topics like that, food, some recipes. I'm going to do a whole thing on hair for men and women, because there's a lot of, as usual, there's a lot of confusion about what works, what doesn't, especially with all the new devices out. So yeah, we'll be talking about that. And yeah, they need to subscribe. You need to subscribe so you don't miss
yes, exactly.
stuff, because you won't know if you don't subscribe. So
Like, subscribe, and as they say, hit that bell.
yeah, hit the little bell so you know when the videos will come out every week.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll tell you what, it helps me out. Like I've subscribed to your channel, and that's how I know about you doing the episodes. Otherwise, you could put them out, and I'd have no idea because I don't go on there enough. And if it doesn't show up in my
Yeah,
feed,
yeah, either that or you have to be in the blog. I send out a blog post that there are 3 videos a week, usually on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for the most part. Sometimes there's bonus ones in there. Sometimes I don't get them out on that day because of whatever. But yeah, I mean, there are 400 and I think 20 videos now. So you can literally type in Chris Gibson on YouTube, Chris Gibson, a word, a skincare word like acne or neck or hands or anything, and I come up, the videos that I've done on that topic show up. So that's a nice place to be on YouTube out of all those, because there's a lot of videos on YouTube. But yeah, if you type in my name and a skin condition, usually my videos come right up. They're the first ones there.
well, that's a good place to be. And you put
Yeah.
a lot of great content, and in fact, if anything, there's so many episodes I've seen. I go, I need to watch that one. I need to watch that one. I'm like,
yeah, we like binge watching. Binge watch. Watch them all.
Well, listen, thank you again for being on the show. I really appreciate you being here, and all the great advice that you gave, and especially I know I concentrated on me a little bit because that's one of the benefits of having your own podcast, and you can ask personal questions and find the problems for the solutions to your problems. So thanks for helping out with that as well. And folks, thanks for joining us. And go check out Chris Gibson on YouTube. And like I said, as we get older and skin, we start taking notice of our skin because it's not looking the way it did when we were younger. This is the young man here who can help you out with that, so that you can look the best that you can. So anyway, until next time, take care, be safe. And for right now, I know some of you are going to bitch and complain, but wear your mask. Peace.